Well, it's a busy morning in Dublin Airport, kind of back to normal as it were. We're taking a flight east, a flight that would have taken us over Crimea, obviously it's not going to do now, to Tbilisi in Georgia. But before we get to Tbilisi, I'll call in an old friend. 31 years ago, spent the summer in Munich, haven't been back since, and it's an 8-hour connection. In Munich, people come to see Marienplatz, they come to see the Altstadt, the Hofbrauhaus, but here we are in Thalkirchen, all will be revealed. So this was Campingplatz Thalkirchen, summer of 1991, and in fairness probably quite a few summers. Hundreds of Irish students worked in Munich during the summer, and accommodation was something, it was a premium. We all took our time and stayed here, and it was unique living in a tent for 3 months. And I'd say that was summer of 1991. It's 31 years later. I know it's closed, I know there's so much to see in Munich, but honest to God, I had to come back.
One of the reasons I had to come back is I've no photos of the place. It exists only in my memory, and this is my first test of that memory in over 3 decades.
Campingplatz Thalkirchen. Every 2 weeks you had to check in and check out here at reception. A bit of a fraught experience because they take the tag off your tent, throw it down, could get flooded, could get destroyed. Part of the fun of some pretty aggressive Namibians that used to run the place. The terrace. God, it's much smaller than I remember. I think a lot of us used to pack in there. One thing about it is, and we probably didn't appreciate it at the time, what a gorgeous setting. People would take their inflatable mattresses from the tent and float along the Isar River here. If the campsite was full, some people would go over and camp in the woods. It was such a hubbub of life. There are actually cars and there are actually camper vans here. Whether there are people actually staying here, I presume there's some form of security. But this was my home. I think we had our tent somewhere over towards those toilet blocks there. Why I remember that specifically is because when you're on an early shift at 4:30 in the morning, you would have your cereal in the light of the toilet block sitting on the step. God, it all sounds very primitive. There are definitely a few people around. I mean, there's a guy kind of tending a van over the far side there beside one of the toilet blocks. I've just waved to people in a tent. I'm a little early, it's opening on the March the 15th, and I don't know if it's had much of a season the last 2 years with COVID. But yeah, round about here, where I used to freak out at the kind of general misery of the whole thing. We had some good times too. Getting the cold bottles of Coke and the machine up there, playing soccer across the way. As I say, 3 months in a tent, kind of character building. Delighted I called out now. Who needs Marienplatz? Everything is much closer together than I remember it being. I remember thinking it was a longer walk from the bus, or seconds. Here we are. Here's a crucial part of the rules, and the most difficult rule of Campingplatz Thalkirchen was the 2-week check-in, check-out, and it still applies today. In fairness, they didn't actually want what we did. We were a bunch of Irish people over here working for the summer, and we took up room that was meant for tourists. But there were late nights, there was German beer, there were scams of 5p pieces. 5p piece was the same size as a Deutschmark. The Deutschmark is worth about 40p. So people did rare trade in things like using the 5p pieces for the Coke machine, for phone calls as well. So yeah, all the scams. You'll never beat the Irish. Directly across from the campsite was this area that served as a football pitch in the evenings. And as I say, people then would take their inflatable mattresses and hop onto the Isar River here, which flows through Munich. I always remember being insanely jealous of the people who had the inflatable mattresses, because it looked like a lot of fun. I'm guessing if you wanted to, you could float into Munich itself, but you may not want to. So, back again, 31 years later. I get the bus down to the U-Bahn and back into the city. As anybody who spent any time in this country will tell you, they wait for no man. And now it's snowing. We had all weather conditions when we lived in this campsite, but I assure you, we didn't have snow. It's actually a nice little village, all told. Will we see it again? Who knows? From snowy Thalkirchen back into Munich.
Da sagt man,